So let's chat about some of the concerns, issues related to individual instruments that you may have seen, safety concerns or likewise.
So, the piano cover that they made for Jonah, he really liked it, but he seemed to get his fingers stuck in it a lot. And so I noticed, like, once he got his fingers stuck in it, he would start, like, flailing his hand about. And so I'm worried that he might accidentally, like, whack himself in the face or whack somebody else in the face. And so maybe that instrument design could be changed a little bit so that you can't get a finger stuck in there.
I noticed that some of the instruments you had to hit really hard to get them to work, which, you know, some of them just naturally have that hard-hitting nature, but it almost was like they would hurt themselves just to get the instrument to make a sound. Mm-hmm. And that would be awful.
In general, like some of the instruments, just they need kind of be drop-proof because kids drop things. And some of them, if dropped, like, you know, there was this maraca type thing that had stuff in it, and then the student I was with, like, kind of threw it down just to see how it would make sound, and it was like, that'll probably break if he does that a lot. So, I don't know, so finding a way to make that, like, drop-proof. Yeah.
That's how it was for ours. She really likes to throw things, so they had things that she could, like, hold and shake, but a lot of them were, if you drop them, then they would break. And I think for our student personally, that was kind of a bad thing because they knew she liked to throw things. So she was obviously going to try to throw them, and then when she does, they break, and there was no use for them.
Yep, going off what James said with hitting stuff, I think that could be addressed by the material that is striking what material.
Yeah.
Because like some people had like softer ball foam things hitting something, so if you just use like wood, a hard thing, as opposed to soft, that would remedy that situation. For one specific instrument, I don't know if anybody tried it out. It was like a movable Glock, so the keys moved, but the mallet didn't, and the part that struck the keys was a screw.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like the pointy end, but still, I think that could be better, like a hard ball, like a wooden ball, something you hit a glockenspiel or xylophone with, so it was also getting stuck in between the keys. I think somebody mentioned something like that. So if it was a little bit bigger and not so dangerous, like a screw, that could probably help.
Going off of that, that was actually designed for our student, but the engineers didn't factor in the fact that she couldn't see the Glock as it moved, and so she really had a hard time with, like, she couldn't see where the note was to press the stick down, and so even if they adapted to that, I don't think it really works in her case.
Right. Our student also had a lot of trouble holding things, so making for the instruments that you needed to hold something, also adding an adaptation where they didn't need to actually grab onto it. It could just be maybe strapped onto their hands or another part of their body would be very helpful for some of the instruments.
And some of the instruments were also like broken in the process of being played. Like one of our instruments kind of fell apart, and then one of the tennis balls, the spring came off the thing, and I don't know if the spring's sharp on the bottom, but the fact that they were broken, maybe there's a different way to assemble them, maybe a different type of glue, a different thing, so that they don't fall apart and become pieces that could hurt someone.
And I think one thing that Taylor's mom mentioned, like with the mallets, like she had an easier time holding like the ball end and then hitting it with the stick, like making the mallets bigger, so it's easier to hold. I think that worked out a lot better.
I know that Maria, she's actually a little bit opposite, where she doesn't really like press hard all the time. Like she can swing hard, she can't really like press hard, and a lot of the things were like very much like you have to press on the string, you have to press on this key really hard in order to make a sound. And I think it was just a little bit like, okay, I'll like hold down the string and you can just like go, but she won't have someone like that in like a performance or something, or in class.
So what were the instruments that were really well received by the learners? Well, how about, do you mind if we go around? That it'll just be easier.
Yeah.
Someone will get like seasick by watching this.
Probably one of the biggest things I was surprised about were there were like wind chimes that she didn't really experience anything like that before, and our student likes to throw, and she didn't even like really try and grab it until at the very end she started grabbing a few of them, and then she would still like push them around so they would still be making sounds. She was just really interested by it.
Along with that one, she also really liked the balls that were hanging on strings, because she likes to throw things. She was able to throw it and it wouldn't go anywhere. And she likes to shake things, and they had beads in them, so then she could shake it and throw it at the same time. So she responded really well to that.
Someone made her, like, for lack of a better term, a jingle belt. And she was able to, like, dance around and just, like, because she loves dancing, because she wants to be Shakira. And so she just, like, adored that one, but it took her so long to, like, kind of warm up to the idea of, like, listening to jingle bells for a very long time. But it was perfect.
I think the drum set, the instrument that was most like the drum set with the two cymbals and like two drum heads in the middle and one more with a cloth cover, was really well received by specifically Sean. I think to make it a little bit better, you could open up the bottom of like the drums, so they were closed off on the plywood or whatever it was, but having the open allows it to resonate a little bit more, as well as I think we mentioned earlier, like the different mallet material. Sean really liked how it would bounce off like that, so maybe tightening the drum heads as well as a different mallet material might assist in better.
Yeah, I think our student really enjoyed that instrument as well, and I think she was able to move with it a lot better than a lot of her other instruments. One thing her mom mentioned is that she has an easier time holding like thicker handles or balls or things like that, and so maybe the mallet sort of thing, instead of being the thin sticks, maybe expanding those. But other than that, I think she really enjoyed that one.
I know my student in particular, Jonah, really liked the like pedal xylophone thing, because you could they have like all these different materials on the pedals that like have these different textures, and you can hit them and they make musical sounds. I think he really enjoyed that. So yeah.
Yeah, I also had Taylor, and she really enjoyed like the pitched instruments, like the glockenspiel. But there was like one, it was like the little glockenspiel came out, and then like the top part was a drum part, but she didn't utilize that part of it quite as much. But she really enjoyed like the pitched part of it, and she had fun with the drums and the cymbals too. So yeah.
The student I was with absolutely just loved the drum set. I mean, once we got there, he wouldn't leave. We tried to get him to walk around a little more, and he just ran straight back. I found interesting is that he liked, like the mallet was like this little rubber golf ball and then the stick, and he just liked to drop it instead of hitting it, and drop it and see how it made sound, and pick it up and drop it again. And he just had a blast with that.
Ariana really liked the pink stand with the 4 different pitched bells on there. It worked well for her because she was able to kick it in her wheelchair, but then I saw that other students could just use their hands as well. So I think that goes well for people that have strengths in their arms and in their legs. So that would be a good one.
Another thing that she really liked about the bells was the resonance. In the beginning, it was almost as if she were surprised when she played it. So when they rang, it really caught her attention, and she was like, oh, well, that was really nice, and she continued. And the other great thing was a couple times she played 3 bells at a time and would accidentally create chords. So the fact that they didn't necessarily have all the diatonic pitches, or all pitches in a scale, created some interesting harmonies that she really enjoyed.
Were there any instruments that you personally liked that maybe the students didn't engage with as much?
The one with like the textured keys for
Oh,
like the
yeah.
glockenspiel was so
Yes, that was
cool.
for Maria.
I
That
love
was really
that
good.
one.
And
So great.
And our student had a similar one, but it wasn't designed in the same sort of way. So instead of pushing down like she's used to, she had to pull the keys up, which was a little more difficult for her. And the instrument wasn't designed with like mallets on the end of those. It was more of like a wooden stick that didn't necessarily allow it to ring as much. So if they had gone back and looked at that one, I feel like it would have done a lot of good for her.
So Same concept of like a piano-esque kind of thing. It was the tennis ball ones with the 3D printed arm lever, which then struck the bells. They did the same like C major scale, so it was like diatonic, but it wasn't well received because I think the springs were a little too strong, so you had to like really smack it to get the bell sound.
Yeah.
I think the bar that held the arms that rotated could have had another support, and that would have fixed a lot of that because it was a little wonky and it would miss the bell sometimes. But I really like that one.
I liked that one a lot too, especially keeping our actual student in mind, even though she wasn't here. I think based on from what I've seen with her, I think she really would have loved to engage with that one, just because she responded really well to the tennis ball, the texture and the shape and everything.
Be interesting if you could swap out the bells so you could set up different keys for that, almost like an Orff instrument kind of thing.
I really liked the way they used boom whackers to create an instrument. I definitely think it could be executed in a different way that would allow the boom whackers for more resonance, but having a tool where you press a button and it hits the boom whackers and creates the sound, I think was a very cool use and would be helpful for a lot of the students we saw today.
I also liked the tennis ball one. I thought that looked really cool. But I also liked the one that was for Miss Ghana, and you could see it like on the top. So there was obviously a lot of like effort and
With the
thought
bells?
put into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know the student, but it just like the bells were so easy to hit that you like barely had to tap them and they made a sound. So I think that was really good as opposed to the ones where you had to like slam on it.
And those bells are built like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of the design changed because they didn't realize that until it came. So, any other?
There was one more that I really liked, but I don't know if they showed up today. I think it was with the boom whackers where they, I don't know if you guys have seen like the PVC pipe marimba where they hit with spatulas kind of thing. So it's like you have like this sort of sound where you just shove the air out of a cylinder kind of thing.
It's a Blue Man Group kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what they were going for with keys down here on the bottom, and then a seesaw action where it would then hit the bottom of the thing. I didn't get to mess with that too much today, but I really, really love the concept. I think they could have made the connection there a little better so that it was more resonant with the pitches. But I really like that